पाश्चात्य देश तारिणी हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा. So welcome to the Isopanishads bhaktisashtri. In the last two classes we finished the second section of the Isopanishads which is from mantra 4 to 8. Today we will begin the third section of the Isopanishads, which begins from mantras 9 to 13, I guess. Let me see. Yes, 9 to 14. 9 to 14 is the third section of the Isopanishads. In this, there are two subdivisions. What is the right Vidya is from 9 to 11, and what is the right Upasana is from 12 to 14. And then prayers to the Ishwar is mantras 15 to 18. So let us now begin the discussion on mantra 8. Sorry, mantra 9, not 8. Andam tamah pravishyanti ye avidyayam upasate tato bhuya iva te tamo ya tu vidyayam rata. Those who engage in the culture of nascent activities, ye avidyayam upasate, shall enter into the darkest region of ignorance. Andam tama pravishyanti. They will enter into the darkest regions of hell. Worse still are those tato bhuya ivate tamo, engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge. Yatu vidyayam rata. So this is a very interesting and a very puzzling verse, you can say, because it mentions that those who are engaged in the culture of nascent activities, that is avidya upasana, they enter the darkest regions. But it is also mentioned worst is that those who engage in the culture of so-called knowledge, those who are engaged in vidya also, they will attain a still worse destination. So how is this? We will try to understand further in our discussion. So the connection between the previous section and this verses, mantras 4 to 8 spoke of to develop spiritual vision to realize Ishwar. So the Ishwar can be understood by spiritual vision. And how to develop that spiritual vision, mantras 4 to 8 spoke. Now, a part of developing the spiritual vision is to cultivate the right knowledge and the right upasana. Right knowledge is dealt in mantra 9 to 11, and right upasana is dealt in mantras 12 to 14. So, you have to cultivate Vidya, and Vidya means knowledge about the Ishwar, because ultimately we have to follow the Ishavasya principle. So, by cultivating the knowledge about the Ishwar, that is Vidya. So, what is the right knowledge? That is dealt in these three verses of Ishopanishad. And what is the right Upasana? It is dealt in 12 to 14. I hope the connection between the previous section and this verse, specifically this section, is clear. Okay, now let us go again into the flow of the Isopanishads up till now. So we saw the Ishavasya principle discussed in the invocation mantra verse 1, and what is the consequence of living in harmony and disharmony with the Ishavasya principle is specifically discussed in mantra 2 and 3. Mantras 9 to 11 and 12 to 14, there is the elaboration of the same theme of how one should cultivate knowledge about the Ishavasya principle. So the same theme is elaborated in these mantras 9 to 11 and 12 to 14. Okay, let's go into another little overview. This is the overview of mantras 9 to 11. So what does mantra 9 say? Avidya takes to darkness and Vidya takes to greater darkness. That's really interesting. And mantra 10 says, Vidya gives one result and Avidya gives another result. Here it is said it is darkness and deeper darkness. Here it says this gives one result and this gives some other opposite result, something. But mantra 9 is saying completely contradicting mantra 9. Then mantra 11 says Vidya and Avidya together grant immortality. So this is completely, contradicting mantras 9 and 10. So what is the answer? How do you understand this? So any thoughts about this? Anyone? How do you understand this? What is the answer for this? Mohan Rup Sham Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Pranam. I think Vidya here they refers to the material knowledge or the knowledge apart from the Ishvara.
Okay.
Maybe that's why.
Where Vidya refers to that?
No, they're saying that Vidya will lead to more greater darkness. So the knowledge is leading to the more greater darkness means that the knowledge is not pertaining to the Supriya or Ishvara about the spiritual knowledge. So it
Okay,
should be.
so in mantra 9, Vidya means material knowledge, you say, right?
Yeah, I
It leads,
think
and
so.
then what is Avidya then, which leads to darkness?
I mean, that total no knowledge.
No knowledge. Okay. And then what is this then? Vidya gives one result, Avidya gives another result. And here it is mentioned Vidya and Avidya together give grand mortality.
No idea, Prabhuji. We are waiting for them.
Yes, Dr. Preeti, what is your understanding?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
So I think here what it is trying to say is that Vidya, if one acquires knowledge, there comes also ego. If there is ego, then one goes to more darkness.
Okay. Then what about in mantra 10? There is Vidya mentioned, na? It gives some result, it says.
Yes, it could give some result because you're having knowledge and you will practice certain things. But if there is ego, then complete knowledge is not there.
Okay, then what about mantra 11? What does Vidya mean there here? Because it gives immortality.
I am not sure about that, Prabhuji.
Okay, we are studying each Upanishads. We are studying some Upanishads, and Upanishad texts are very terse. They're cryptic. And Upanishads are especially target audience is the Gyanis. So the meaning of the Upanishads is very difficult to decipher. So why the Upanishads are difficult to understand is because the term Vidya and Avidya mean differently in different text. The text and the context. So the meanings of the terms Vidya and Avidya will vary based on the context. So that's how Sanskrit is. So in English, you can have different shades of meaning. Blue directly denotes blue color, but it can have various connotations, indirect, implied meanings. When she heard the bad news, she suddenly turned blue. So it doesn't mean that she literally turned into blue color. She, her face, suddenly went into depression. So it can have different shades of meanings in English, but in Sanskrit, the depth of the meaning and the uh, exact uh, contextual understanding is quite deep and quite systematically developed. The language is very highly scientific. So Vidya have different meanings in different contexts. So in mantra, of course, this should not have been verse, it should be mantra. I'll change it. In mantra 9, Vidya means so-called knowledge. This refers to material knowledge, material pursuit of material knowledge. And Prabhupada will explain that in the translation. Whereas avidya means ignorance, material knowledge, and vidya means so-called knowledge, which the karma kandis have, or the material scientists have in today's context. And in mantra 10, vidya is devotional knowledge. So devotional knowledge gives one result, and here avidya, the meaning of avidya is both vidya and avidya together, ignorance and so-called knowledge, material knowledge, and Vedavagarata, the so-called spiritual knowledge also. So both together combine to form avidya. So this gives one result and this gives one result. So that is the meaning here in mantra 10. In mantra 11, vidya means again devotional knowledge, and avidya means material knowledge essential for living in this material world. Sorry, kept my phone on, I did not realize. So mantra 11, vidya means devotional knowledge, and material knowledge essential for living in this material world. So both are required for us to attain the absolute truth or attain immortality. So that's how the terms vidya and avidya have different meaning in different context, and this we see repeatedly in the Upanishads and in Sanskrit and in Bhagavad Gita. So I'll just give you one example from the Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavad Gita, in the 9th chapter, when Krishna explains his vibhutis, he mentions Gatir Bharta Prabhu Sakshi. I'm just sharing the screen. Gatir Bharta Prabhu Sakshi. Gati means goal here. So the meaning of Gati is here in this context, goal. But again in the 12th chapter, Klesho Adhikarastesham Avyakta Asakta Chetasam Avyakta hi Gatir Dukkam. Gati is here. So Gati here, Prabhupada is saying progress. So you can see just a drastic difference in the translation of the same word, Gati. Gati means end destination, and Gati here means the path of progress, which will ultimately lead to the destination. But there's a different shade of meaning to the term Gati, and that is why strictly Shabda Artha doesn't convey the meaning of the what is being stated. There has to be Bhavartha, Bhavanuvadi, that's why it's called. And that's why only expert acharyas who are coming in the Guru Shishya Parampara can understand what is the meaning of the text in the given context. So So that is how we should understand it. Okay. So now we understood, Vidya leads to greater darkness. Avidya leads to darkness, but Vidya leads to greater darkness. So why it is so? Prabhupada explains in paragraph 1. And avidyayam upasate. What is avidyayam upasate? Paragraphs 2 to 4, Prabhupada will discuss. And vidyayam rata. Those who are engaged in vidyayam rata, Prabhupada discusses from paragraph 4 to 9. And within that, the godless modern education, the godless materialist. Prabhupada speaks about it in paragraph 4. And this is especially relevant in the modern times today, because in the original Vedic culture where Varnashram was there, everyone was following the Vedas. So there were no, in one sense, very rare demons were there. So everyone was a spiritualist. Everyone was on the path of God. But today there are godless materialists because of this modern education. So Prabhupada speaks about that in paragraph 4. Paragraph 5, Prabhupada speaks about the Vedavadarata, the religious materialist, the Karma Kandis. And then paragraph 9, he speaks about the Maya Prita Jnana, that is the monist, the Mayavadis. We'll speak that about in paragraph 9. So that is the themes which will come in this paragraphs. Okay, so let us go to now paragraph 1. Paragraph 1, the Isopanishads. Who will read paragraph 1? Mohan Roop Sham Prabhuji. Yes. If you have any questions about the overview, what we discussed also, you're free to ask. Okay. Yes, Mohan Roop Sham Prabhuji.
This mantra, this mantra offers a comparative study of Vidya and Avidya. Avidya or ignorance is undoubtedly dangerous, but Vidya or knowledge is even more dangerous when mistaken or misguided. This mantra of Sri Isopanisad is more applicable today than at any time in the past. Modern civilization has advanced considerably in the field of mass education, but the result is that people are more unhappy before than ever before because of the stress placed on material advancement to the exclusion of the most important part of life, the spiritual aspect.
So here Prabhupada mentions that this mantra is offering a comparative study between Vidya and Avidya. Avidya is bad. Antam tama pravishyanti. But Vidya is more dangerous. Why? When it is mistaken or misguided. So he speaks about that this mantra is more applicable in today's world. And he speaks about the modern material education. So Prabhupada, wherever he has to give credit, he gives credit. You can see this part of the statement, he gives credit that it has advanced in the field of mass education. But what has happened? The result is that people are unhappy. More people are unhappy because of more stress based on material advancement, neglecting the spiritual part. Now, one might not agree with this statement of Srila Prabhupada, but if we see the statistics, it becomes very clear. So material advancement has led to what? Stress, depression, suicides, addictions, comfortable life, but comfortably miserable. So it is said that one of very senior devotee was telling comforts for the body. If you name anything, they have all the comforts with respect to houses and cars, where every comfort they have all designed. But the more comfort you give to the body, the more the psychological problems are there. So the psychological problems at the level of mind are so high in America. Statistics says that uh, practically everyone has a psychologist. They consult a psychiatrist for their psychological problems. And the psychiatrists have their psychiatric consultants whom they consult. So that's the situation. And if you see the statistics, it's very clear. So comfortable life, but comfortably miserable. Whereas the example is of a farmer working in the field. Although he might be working very hard in the field and he might be sweating because of the heat in the summer. So although he might be sweating uh, because of hard labor, but at mind he is very peaceful. But the software person who is working in an AC office, although he might be in a posh AC and he might not be sweating because of the intense summer heat because of the AC, but he might be sweating because of stress internally. So the stress level has increased very, very high, especially in the software related industry. Many, Bangalore is one of the cities where number of stress and depression have become the major problems in the world. So we have, as Martin Luther said, guided missiles, but misguided men. We have controlled machines, but uncontrolled minds. So that's our predicament. Okay. So paragraph 2, who will read? 2 to 4. Take 2 and 3 now. Who will read? Volunteers. Okay, Ratna Mataji. Yes, you had a question? You had raised your hand?
Hare Krishna. No, Prabhu, I wanted to try and answer the question.
Okay. Fine, you can continue the reading. Paragraphs 2 and 3 you can read as of now. I've unmuted you.
As far as Vidya is concerned, the first mantra has explained very clearly that the Supreme Lord is the proprietor of everything, and that forgetfulness of this fact is ignorance. The more a man forgets this fact of life, the more he is in darkness. In view of this, a godless civilization directed toward the so-called advancement of education is more dangerous than a civilization in which the masses of people are less educated.
Okay, just hold on. So here Prabhupada now, Prabhupada has dealt with avidya in paragraph 1, upasate. Now vidyayam upasate, he begins this discussion from paragraphs 2, 3 and 4. First of all, Prabhupada defines what is vidya. Vidya means to very clearly understand that the Supreme Lord is proprietor of everything, and forgetting that is avidya. So if one is always conscious that the Ishwar is the controller and proprietor of everything, there is no question of enjoying what is Ishwar's property. So being always conscious about Krishna, that means conscious of the Ishwar here, in fact. And when we forget that, then we are in avidya. And Prabhupada here mentions advancement of education is more dangerous. And Prabhupada many times, stated that today, as uh, the modern mass education which is happening, the more and more people are getting educated, the more and more it is leading to atheism. And Prabhupada said that even in India, a simple village person, although he might be from a material standard, not be educated highly, but he would have some knowledge of Atma Gyan. It's such a simple knowledge that he would be, having some understanding of Atma Gyan. I remember many years back, we were in our farm and we had a bhaktisashtri course going on there, and it was rainy season, the beginning of rainy season, where it rains very heavily. Practically for 4 months, it continuously rains. And we, some devotees together, were in the farm and studying Bhakti Shastri. And a villager, happened to come by to visit the farm temple. And I was sitting and studying Bhagavad Gita. So he came and asked me, Swamiji, uh, what Atma Chintan you're doing? So what deliberation on the self you are doing? So they were so refined in that language, Atma Chintan. I was surprised. So even the masses of people who are less educated, especially in India, have idea and understanding about the soul, concept of the soul, reincarnation, and they accept it. But as more and more this advancement of so-called magical knowledge, people are becoming more and more atheist. So this is the point Prabhupada is making. Okay, the next paragraph, Mataji, you can continue to read.
Yes. Of the different classes of men, karmis, jnanis, and yogis, the karmis are those who are engaged in the activities of sense gratification. In the modern civilization, 99.9% of the people are engaged in the activities of sense gratification under the flags of industrialism, economic development, altruism, political activism, and so on. All these activities are more or less based on the satisfaction of the senses, to the exclusion of the kind of God consciousness described in the first mantra.
Prabhupada is mentioning about how karmis, jnanis, and yogis, among them, the karmis are engaged in sense gratification. Now, there are two types of karmis. Anyone knows which are the two types of karmis? There's a slight, difference between. There are two types of karmis. Anyone knows about it? Raise your hands. Yes, Aarti Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, I'll guess. One is material, to gain material things. Other is to gain liberation, like with demigods, they have something to get.
Okay, quite close. One are the materialist people who are in pursuit of sense gratification. They are also karmis, and Prabhupada defines them in this verse. But there are religious karmis, religious materialist, and they are also called as karma kandis. So strictly speaking, karmis means those who are in the path of following the path of Vedas, but in pursuit of sense gratification, going to heaven. These are the karma kandis. But here, Prabhupada, when he's defining the karmis here, he's defining them as the materialist. The materialist. So we have to have this clear understanding, and I think it is there in the yes, yeah. The karma kandis are called as the religious materialist, and the karmis here are the non-religious materialist. Just a second. Hold on. So Prabhupada is mentioning there, if you see the karmis as the non-religious materialists, they don't follow the path of Vedas. Whereas the religious materialists, they are also called as karmis, they are specifically karma kandis. They follow the path of the Vedas, again for the purpose of sense gratification, that is to go to heaven, higher enjoyment. One is pursuit of sense gratification, following the path of Vedas, And the other is pursuit of sense gratification without following the path of Vedas, just through artha. And Prabhupada is specifically mentioning them through, how? Through industrialism, economic development, altruism, political activism. So all these activities, with the exclusion of Ishavasya principle, which is discussed in Mantra 1 is mentioned. Prabhupada is mentioning that. Okay, so a little bit points are there. Now avidyayam upasate. Let's go to this avidyayam upasate. So forgetfulness of the Ishavasya principle is avidya. This is a broad, definition which Prabhupada has given. And the profitless pursuit of sense gratification is the worship of avidya. So upasate means worship. So their worship is what? Sense gratification. So they worship that. So that's why avidyayam upasate. And some the modern godless education, Prabhupada is going to speak about it. We'll go to that paragraph 4. That time we'll bring this point. Okay, paragraph 4, Mataji, you can continue. Paragraph 4. I have to unmute you, right? Yes, Mataji. Paragraph 4.
Yes, ma'am. In the language of the Bhagavad Gita, 7.115, people who are engaged in gross sense gratification are mudhas, asses. The ass is a symbol of stupidity. Those who simply engage in the profitless pursuit of sense gratification are worshipping avidya, according to Sri Isopanisad. And those who play the role of helping this sort of civilization in the name of educational advancement are actually doing more harm than those who are on the platform of gross sense gratification.
Okay, hold on.
That one.
So here Prabhupada is bringing out what this verse is saying. Andam tama pravishanti ye avidyam upasate. So those who are in avidya, without having, without realizing the Ishavasya principle and pursuing sense gratification, that is gross sense gratification, they are in ignorance. They will go to the darkest regions of ignorance. But those who are promoting so-called knowledge, so-called educational advancement, they are what? They are still more dangerous. They will go still deeper into darkness. So this point Prabhupada is bringing out. Okay, continue.
The advancement of learning by a godless people is as dangerous as a valuable jewel on the hood of a cobra. A cobra decorated with a valuable jewel is more dangerous than one not decorated. In the Haribhakti Sudhodaya 3.11.12, the advancement of education by a godless people is compared to decorations on a dead body. In India, as in many other countries, some people follow the custom of leading a procession with a decorated dead body for the pleasure of the lamenting relatives. In the same way, modern civilization is a patchwork of activities meant to cover the perpetual miseries of material existence. All such activities are aimed towards sense gratification. But above the senses is the mind, and above the mind is the intelligence, and above the intelligence is the soul. Thus, the aim of real education should be self-realization, realization of the spiritual values of the soul. Any education which does not lead to such realization must be considered avidya or nescience. And to culture such nescience means to go down to the darkest region of ignorance.
Prabhupada is mentioning that the real aim of education is self-realization and realizing the spiritual values of the soul. And Prabhupada is quoting here the verse in the Bhagavad Gita. Verse is 3.41 or 42. Indriyani parannahur indriyabhya parammana manasastu parabuddhir yo buddhe parasastu sah. Prabhupada is quoting that. So you can note down in your books, Isopanisad book, that this is the verse Prabhupada is referring here. So this so-called education, advancement in education is leading to deeper darkness. And Prabhupada is quoting the Hari Bhakti Suhoday for that. It is like a decoration on the dead body. It's like covering up the real problems of life, and then you will continue material existence. So that's what Prabhupada is hinting here. So here, this is very interesting. To be in ignorance is bad. To be in ignorance and to claim to be in knowledge is worse. These are the non-theistic scientists. That means they don't believe in God, the scientists, and they think that they are in knowledge. They know they have knowledge, and they propagate that knowledge as reality. To be in ignorance and to claim to be in knowledge and to condemn real knowledge as ignorance is worst. These are the atheistic philosophers. So they claim to be in knowledge, they are in ignorance, but they claim to be in knowledge, and this real knowledge about self-realization, they condemn it. So that is worse. So like that, there can be degrees, and Prabhupada is hinting that to some degree in his purport. I already explained this. Bhaktas, Gyanis, there are the religious materialists and the non-religious materialists. Prabhupada is quoting this verse from the Hari Bhakti Suhoday. Bhagavad Bhakti Hinasya Jati Shastram Japastapa Apranaseva Dehasya Mandanam Lokaranjanam. If one is born in a high family like that of a Brahmana, Kshatriya or Vaishya, Jati, but is not a devotee of the Lord, Bhagavad Bhakti Hinasya, all his good qualifications as a Brahmana, Kshatriya or Vaishya, Shastram, Japas, Tapa are null and void. Mandanam Lokaranjanam. Indeed, they are decorations, considered decorations for dead. Apranasya Dehasya. So here in today's context, we might not consider Brahmana, Kshatriya and Vaishya if they are not a devotee of the Lord. If they are pursuing only material knowledge, all their degrees, then it is Mandanam Loka Ranjanam. So here, this will come in the next section, take up that time. So the next section, Prabhupada speaks about Vidyayam Upasate. This is entire remaining part of the Isopanishads from paragraph 4 to 9. In the end of fourth paragraph, but specifically from 5 to 9, Prabhupada speaks about Vidyayam Rata. First, he speaks about the godless modern education, the godless materialist. This we already dealt now. And then now, Vedavada Rata, the religious materialist. Paragraphs 5 to 8, Prabhupada will speak about it now. So let us go to this Vedavada Rata. We have already finished this modern education, this so-called material knowledge, Vidya. So, just to check our understanding, who is the goddess of Vidya? Anyone knows? In many educational institutions, they mention, they have that phrase, Vidya, Jyoti, something like that, like that. So who is the goddess of Vidya? Anyone?
Saraswati.
Who is it?
Saraswati Devi.
Then who is the goddess of spiritual education. Who is the goddess of spiritual education? Anyone? Yes, Aarti Mataji.
Parvati.
Sorry. Yeah. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I guess goddess Lakshmi. Lakshmi Devi.
Lakshmi is the consort of Narayan. So there are two types of Saraswatis. One is called as the Divya Saraswati. She is she's a personality from the spiritual world. She is one who gives spiritual knowledge, and the Vidya, the so-called even Karmakanda knowledge or the materialist knowledge, that Vidya, that is not the Divya Saraswati. She's not the Divya Saraswati. She's a Saraswati who is part of the goddess of this material world, of this material world. So that's the difference. Similarly, as Mataji was mentioning Lakshmi, there is Mahalakshmi, who is the consort of Narayan. And this Lakshmi gives opulence even to devotees, but the devotees don't never become proud. Because this is opulence directly bestowed by Krishna. Like Yudhishthir's Maharaj kingdom was very opulent. It was mentioned it was more opulent than the heavenly king Indra. So this which is bestowed by the devotees is directly bestowed by Mahalakshmi. And the Lakshmi in this world, which is Chanchala, which the materialist possess the wealth, that is bestowed by the Lakshmi Devi in this, So she's a material counterpart of the spiritual counterpart, the spiritual world. So there is that Divya Saraswati who bestows transcendental knowledge. So there is a difference between the two. Okay, so let's come to paragraph 5 now. Paragraph 5, who will read? Devhuti Kapil Prabhuji. Yes. Yes, Prabhuji.
Sorry, Prabhuji, I had a question also. Should I ask now?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can ask.
Prabhuji, can you talk about Lord Dakshinamurti also?
Lord?
Dakshinamurti.
I have not come across Dakshinamurti. Who is this?
I don't know, like in childhood, before exams, my mom would ask to pray to Dakshinamurti. Yeah.
I have never heard. You have to only tell me what this personality. There are many.
No, that's what even I'm trying to understand it. I was just like Googling it up. It's something rang a bell, and it says it's an aspect of Shiva as a guru, a teacher, or something like that.
Dakshina.
Yeah.
Yes, Daksha's daughter is Dakshina. Daksha's daughter is Dakshina. And Dakshina is Strilinga. So it refers to the daughter of Daksha, that is the consort of Lord Shiva. So it's basically mentioning worshipping Uma or Parvati. Because she's the goddess of this material world. She's Durga. That's it I can say about Dakshina. Dakshina is Parvati. That's her name, you can say.
Okay.
So you'd like to read from paragraph 5?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
According to Bhagavad Gita 2.42, 7.15, mistaken mundane educators are known as Vedavada Ratha and Mayaya Partha Jnana.
Mayaya Prita Jnana.
Mayaya Partha Jnana. They may also be atheistic demons, the lowest of men. Those who are Vedavada Ratha post themselves as very learned in Vedic literature, but unfortunately, they are completely diverted from the purpose of the Vedas. In Bhagavad Gita 15.15, it is said that the purpose of the Vedas is to know the personality of Godhead. But these Veda Vadarata men are not at all interested in the personality of Godhead. On the contrary, they are fascinated by such fruitive results as the attainment of heaven. As stated in Mantra 1, we should know that the personality of Godhead is the proprietor of everything, and that we must be satisfied with our allotted portions of the necessities of life. The purpose of all Vedic literature is to awaken this God consciousness in forgetful living being, and this same purpose is presented in various ways in different scriptures of the world for understanding of a foolish mankind. Thus, the ultimate purpose of all religions is to bring back one to Godhead.
Continue.
But the Vedavada Ratha people, instead of realizing that the purpose of the Vedas is to revive the forgetful soul's lost relationship with the personality of Godhead, take it for granted that such side issues as the attainment of heavenly pleasure for sense gratification, the lust for which causes their material bondage in the first place, are the ultimate end of the Vedas. Such people misguide others by misinterpreting the Vedic literature. Sometimes, even Sometimes they even condemn the Puranas, which are authentic Vedic explanations for laymen. The Vedavadarathas give their own explanation of the Vedas, neglecting the authority of great teachers, acharyas. They also tend to raise some unscrupulous person from among themselves and present him as the leading exponent of Vedic knowledge. Such Vedavadarathas are especially condemned in this mantra by the very appropriate Sanskrit words Vidyayam Rataha. Vidyayam refers to the study of the Vedas because the Vedas are the origin of knowledge, of all knowledge, Vidya. And Rataha means those engaged. Vidyayam Rataha means those engaged in the study of the Vedas. The so-called students of the Vedas are condemned herein because they are ignorant of the actual purpose of the Vedas on account of their disobeying the acharyas. Such Vedavadarathas search out meanings in every word of the Vedas to suit their own purposes. They do not know that the Vedic literature is a collection of extraordinary books that can be understood only through the chain of disciplic succession.
Okay, you can finish this also because this is Vedavadaratha.
Okay. One must approach a bona fide spiritual master in order to understand the transcendental message of the Vedas. That is the direction of Mundaka Upanishad 1.2.12. These Vedavada Ratha people, however, have their own acharyas who are not in the chain of transcendental succession. Thus, they progress into the darkest region of ignorance by misinterpreting the Vedic literature. They fall even further into ignorance than those who have no knowledge of the Vedas at all.
Yes, Prabhupada is translating how this tatota bhuyata tamo yo vidyayam upasate. Prabhupada is bringing out that. So those who have no Vedic knowledge at all, they are in avidya. But those who have Vedic knowledge, so-called Vedic knowledge, without understanding the purpose of Vedas is to realize Krishna, they are still in darkness and they go to deeper, darker regions. So that's what Prabhupada brings out in these paragraphs. So here, Prabhupada quotes 242 and 715. 242 is Ya Imam Pushpitam Vacha, and here Namam Dushritano Muda Prapadyante Naradana Maya Aprita Jnana Asuram Bhavam Ashita. So here specifically, Prabhupada is quoting Maya Aprita Jnana. This refers to the Gyanis, the monist. So we'll come to the monist little later, but let us take this Vedvadarata. So Prabhupada mentions that they Vedavada Rata. Vedavada Rata. Prabhupada translates very interestingly. What is Vedavada? Vidyayam Rata. Veda Vada. Vada means, conclusions. Vad is also a kind of argument where we come to a Siddhanta. Vada Pravatadam Aham, Krishna says. That which establishes me through philosophical discussions is me. And they discuss the Vedas, they are engaged in it, but they don't know the purpose of the Vedas. The purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna. They don't know that. And the classic example of this in the Krishna Lila is the Yagic Brahmins. The Yagic Brahmins were performing yagya. The yagya is done for the pleasure of Vishnu, yagya by Vishnu. And they are offering ahuti in the fire, which is the mouth of Vishnu. And Krishna and Balram, who are the origin of all avatars and even Vishnu, they sent their friends to go and ask for some prasad because they were hungry. And they were so much absorbed that they neglected. So, those who are followers of Varnashram and follow the Vedas without understanding the purpose of the Vedas is to realize Krishna. And these Yagic Brahmins especially personify the Brahmanas who follow Varnashram, and they are proud of their Varna. Pride because of following the Varnashram principles very strictly. Without understanding the purpose of Varnashram is to develop ultimately Rati towards Krishna. So Prabhupada brings out that about the Vedavada Rathas. We will see in the slides some points. I'm just going through the Prabhupada's paragraph some. And Prabhupada here mentions, that mantra one states that we have to realize Ishavasha principle and be satisfied with whatever is allocated. And this is the purpose of all Vedas. And all religious scriptures actually have the same purpose. Prabhupada is very, very broad, giving, he's including all other dharmas, all other scriptures also within the fold of the Vedas. And they are giving this understanding for the full kind. And all the ultimate purpose of all religions is to bring one back home, Godhead. But this Vedavada Rata comes back to that. Prabhupada says, Kamatma para in 2.42. Their Atma is filled with calm to enjoy what? Heavenly pleasures. So here, first thing is, their goal is sense gratification. In one sense, if you see, they are the highest goal of material sense gratification, heavenly enjoyment in Swargalok with the Apsaras, where there is Somras. Who can think about it, So that's the highest material sense gratification. That is their pursuit. Secondly, they are, condemned more that they will go to darkest regions. One is because they misinterpret the Vedic literature, first reason. And they offend or they criticize the Vedic literatures, especially the Puranas, which are authentic explanation of the Vedas. So we are followers of Shruti. The Shruti is the four Vedas. They are expert in chanting the mantras. So the Puranas, which are not mantras, but they are composed in simple Sanskrit. Of course, Bhagavatam Purana is very special, which delineate more the pastimes of the Lord. When they condemn that, the Smriti Shastras, then they commit offense. So this is second thing. They give their own explanations, neglecting the bona fide Guru Krishna Parampara. So that is why these Vedavada Rata are condemned. So Vidyayam Rata. Rata means, Prabhupada says, those who are engaged in Vidya. Vidya means Veda. Veda means study of Vedas. So Prabhupada translates Vidyayam Rata as those engaged in the study of Vedas. Anyone knows what is the meaning of Bharata? Our country is called as, India is called as Bharata. What is Bharata? Anyone? Based on this explanation of Vidyayam Rata. What is the meaning of Bharata? One hand has been raised. Let me see if there are others who would like to answer. What is the meaning of Bharata? Yes, Aarti Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam. Prabhuji, Bha in the sense light and Ratha in the sense who are engaged. So the ones who are engaged to progress towards light.
Light. How is Bha light?
Bhaskar, we say, is the name of the sun god.
Yes. Bhaskar is sun. Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So this is the land where people are engaged in enlightenment. That is Bharata. Excellent. Very nice. So here Prabhupada is giving Vidyayamrata explanation. Bharata means. Another thing is they don't follow the chain of discipline succession. One has to approach a spiritual master, which they don't do. And that's why they progress to darkest regions because of misinterpreting the Vedic literature. This is also one of the offenses to the holy name. They fall even further into ignorance than those who have no knowledge of the Vedas at all. So this is the reason why this mantra is speaking about it. Prabhupada makes it very, very clear. Okay, let's go to some of the points in the slide, if there are any. Yes. So Prabhupada quotes about Bhagavad Gita 2.42 and 43. And then their destination is mentioned in 9.20, also in 21. The karma kandis are discussed here. First thing is they mistake side issues in Vedas as ultimate purpose. The misguide people misinterpret Vedas. Tato bhuya iva te tamo. That's why that is the result. And these are the two verses Prabhupada is quoting. Yamimam pushpitam vacham pravadyante avapashchita vedavada partha nanyat astiti vadina kamatmana swargapara janma karma phala pradam kriya vishesha bahulam Bhogaishwarya gatim prati. The unintelligent people, avipashchita. Krishna calls them as not vipashchita, avipashchita. Absorbed in the praises of Swarga offered in the Vedas. Vedavada rata. This is a Vishwanath Chakravarti's translation of the verse. Who propound that there is nothing higher than Swarga. Na anyad asti iti vadina. Vad, they conclude teachings of the Vedas is ultimately to attain Swarga. That is the goal. Attractively speak those superficially attractive words. Yam imam pushpita vacha pravadante. Pravadante means they speak. Filled with desire, kamatmana, thinking heaven as ultimate, Swarga para. The unintelligent speak many words. Kriya vishesha bhavanam, concerning attainment of power and enjoyment. Bhog aishwarya gatim prati, which give fruits to their actions in varnashram and high birth. Janma, karma, phala, pradham. So this is the verse Prabhupada is quoting. The commentary. So now we'll come to the Maya Aparita Jnana. Maya Aparita Jnana. Who will volunteer to read? And any questions if you have also we can take. The Maya Aparita Jnana is the last paragraph. Who will volunteer to read? Aarti Mataji, you can read.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, from this para, Maya.
This is the last paragraph.
Yes, Prabhuji. The Maya Aprahata Jnana class of men
One second, just hold on.
Yes.
Brajeshwari Mataji, you have a question?
No, just for reading, Prabhu. So,
Okay. Aarti Mataji, you can continue.
Yes, Prabhuji. The Maya Aprahata Jnana class of men are self-made gods. Such men think that they themes and that
they think themselves as God.
Think that they themselves are God and that there is no need of worshipping any other god. They will agree to worship an ordinary man if he happens to be rich. but they will never worship the personality of Godhead. Such men, unable to recognize their own foolishness, never consider how it is that God can be entrapped by Maya, his own illusory energy. If God were ever entrapped by Maya, Maya would be more powerful than God. Such men say that God is all powerful, but they do not consider that if he is all powerful, there is no possibility of his being overpowered by Maya. These self made gods cannot answer all these questions very clearly. They are, they are simply satisfied to have become God themselves.
So here, Vidyayam Upasate, apart from the Karma Kandis who are Veda Vada Rata, there are other more sophisticated followers of Vedas who are the Jnanis. And Prabhupada is speaking about them and referring to Bhagavad Gita 7.15, the Maya Aprita Jnana, who consider themselves as God. And the Jnanis, especially the Brahmavadis, and there are two classes, the Brahmavadis and the Mayavadis, and especially this can refer more to the Mayavadis. So they consider that we are all God. Prabhupada is in his commentary mentioning how can an ordinary person become God? How can God be entrapped in Maya? That means Maya is stronger than God. God is all powerful. He cannot come under the trap of Maya. So these are self-made gods. Prabhupada says, in India, God is manufactured every day. So this is the second category, Maya Prita Jnana. So the impersonalists are of two types. One are the Mayavadis and the other are the Brahmavadis. The Mayavadis are spoken in 7.24 and 9.11 and 12. And the Brahmavadis is spoken in 12.3 and 5. The Mayavadis commit an offense to the form of God. They consider God's form is also made of Maya. And that's why Prabhupada is saying if God, is under Maya, God's body, God's activities, God's pastimes are also Maya, they say. So they commit offense to God and they go to darkest regions. The Brahmavadis, and their absorption is Upasana of Brahman, the all-pervading spirit. And although God's activities, Leelas, which are mentioned in the Puranas, are very attractive, but they don't have attraction and they don't commit offense to the form of God. So that's why these Brahmavadis can attain liberation if they practice their Gyan Sadhana without committing any offense. Whereas the Mayavadis who commit offense to the form of God, they will enter into darkest regions. So that's the distinction between the two, the Mayavadis and the Brahmavadis. Of course, we'll go into a little more detail when we study mantras 12 to 14 about Upasana, the right Upasana. There we will go into more details of the understanding of the Brahmavadis and the Mayavadis. In Bhagavad Gita 7.24, it is mentioned Avyakta Vyaktim Mapanna. This is the verse. Avyakta Vyaktim Mapanya. Avyakta means I was unmanifested and now I have manifested. All-pervading Brahman is unmanifested, and the personality of Godhead is actually manifested from the unmanifested Brahman. That is their understanding. Manyate mam abuddhaya. They are less intelligent. Param bhava jananto. They don't understand my transcendental higher nature, which is imperishable and anuttama, finest. And again in the Bhagavad Gita in 9:11, Krishna speaks about it. Avajananti mamuda manusham tanumashrita Param bhava jananto mama bhuta maheshwara. Avajananti, not knowing, moodas. These Maya Prita Gyanas are called Muda there also, and here also Krishna calls them Muda. Manusham Tanumashita. So this two-handed form, they think this body is also like a material body like us. But they don't know that it is Param, it is transcendental. Param Bhava Ajananta. And Mama Bhuta Maheshwaram. I'm the supreme proprietor of everything. So they don't understand this. And such Mayavadis, what is their destination? Destination is Mogasha, Mokarmana, Moga Jnana, Cheshtita. Raksisim Asurim Chaiva, Prakritim Mohini Shita. Mogasha, their path which they have chosen, it is baffled in hopes. Mokarmana, baffled in their activities. Moga Jnana, baffled in knowledge. Vicheshtita, Vicheta Chetasa, bewildered in their consciousness. Prabhupada, Krishna is saying Raksisim, Asurum, atheistic, eva prakritim, nature, and they were bewildered. In that deluded condition, their hopes of liberation, fruitive activity, and the culture of knowledge defeated. Those who are thus bewildered and attracted by demonist and atheistic views. So this itself is considered demonic and atheism. Although it is jnana, but it is Maya Prita Jnana or the Maya philosophy. So that's how dangerous it is. And this is their destination, which Krishna also in the Gita is speaking. And the same thing is also, echoed here in the mantra 9. Tato buya ivate tamo yah tu vidyayam rata. They will go to darkest regions, more deeper region, darker regions for those who are engaged in vidyayam rata. So that completes our discussion on the last paragraph also. So any questions, any clarification anyone has? Yes, Ratna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. We were talking just now about Brahmavadis and Mayavadis. But then when we discuss, we always talk about like there is no difference in the form, character, name of Krishna, right? So Brahmavadis also come into that same category as Mayavadis. I mean, in that group which is prone to commit offenses, right? But then we said no offense against the form of the Lord, not against the form of the Lord, but the character of the Lord, right? Because that's one of the forms of the Lord, right? Paramatma for a form, or Brahma form, the personal form, all are forms of the Lord, is it not, Prabhu? How do we understand that? That is also an offense, no?
Come again, what's exactly your question? I'm not able to get exactly what you're trying to say.
When we were discussing Brahmavadis and Mayavadis, in the table which you had shown, it said no offense against the form of the Lord.
No, what I mean to say is the Mayavadis, because in the Puranas there is discussion of the pastimes of the Leelas of the Lord, but firstly the avatars which perform these Leelas, which are described in the Puranas, they consider these avatars as Bhagavan, but their form is also made of Maya. The pastimes what they perform is also Maya. So that's what the Mayavadis, and the reciprocations which they have with devotees, the spiritual affection, the spiritual bhakti, what is there, the exchange of rasa between the Lord and his devotees, all this they consider as Maya, and they condemn that. And that's why they commit offense. They think that the Lord's body is also made of Maya. So that's why these Mayavadis commit offense. The Brahmavadis, on the other hand, they are Brahma Upasakas. They study the Upanishads. They are more interested in, the Upasana of Brahman. And the Upasana of Brahman is described in the Bhagavad Gita. I'll just hint on that one verse, which gives some idea of the Upasana of the Brahmavadis. Okay, sorry. It's here. Yatu aksharam anirdesham avyaktam pariupasate. Their upasana is the avyakta, the all-pervading Brahman. It's aksharam anirdesham sarvatra gam achintyam kutastam achalam dhruvam. And then to realize this, sainindriya gramam sarvatra samabuddhaya ye prapnuvanti mameva sarvabhuta hite rata. They are engaged like this. So they have to control their senses, be equally disposed. So they are more interested in, their attraction is towards the all-pervading Brahman, and they are not attracted to, the leelas of the Lord, which the Lord performs, and they don't commit any offense. If they also commit offense, then they'll also not be able to attain liberation. That's the point. So generally, that's why the distinction is done between the Brahmavadis and the Mayavadis. That's my point. I hope it is clear.
Yes, Prabhu.
Any other questions? Yes, Devhuti Kapil Prabhuji.
So, Prabhuji, when you say that the Brahmavadis, they attain liberation, they go to the Brahman platform, right? Eventually, they'll fall down and they have to engage in devotional service to attain Vaikuntha or Goloka, right?
No. It's not like that. Prabhupada, in most of the purports, he quotes Ye Anya Arvindaksha. That verse you're referring to, I suppose. Vimukta Maninas and Avishuddha Buddhe Anadrita Yushmadangre Patanti Adha, it is mentioned. So those who take up the path of Gyan, first of all, to take up the path of Gyan, one should be a Sthita Pragya, one should be a self-realized soul. And then he can take up to the path of Gyan. And by performing the Anga of Gyan Sadhana, when he attains perfection, he becomes a Jivan Mukta. He becomes liberated within living this body, while living in this body. But if he commits any offense to the lotus feet of the Lord, Anadrita Yushmadangriya, although he is liberated in this body, he can fall from that liberation and glide down. But if he doesn't commit offense, as I mentioned, to condemn the Lord's form or the pastimes, and his pursuit is Gyan Sadhana, ultimately the Brahma Upasana, then he can become Videha Mukta. When he leaves this body, that is called as Videha Mukta. And by the process of Gyan, because his goal was to attain the all-pervading Brahman, so he attains liberation. So there is two kinds of liberation. One is called as the Ishwar Sayujya, and the other is called as the Brahma Sayujya. So the Brahma Sayujya means that they attain the Brahma Jyoti. And once one attains that platform, there is no question of falling down. The Ishwara Sayujya is, the Jnani, the yogis who merge. There is merging in the impersonal Brahman, and here the Ishwara Sayujya is merging in the body of the Lord. That is especially the body of Mahavishnu. So Ishwara Sayujya is merging into the body of the Lord. So they also attain liberation from the cycle of birth and death. So both the Ishwara Sayujya and the Brahma Sayujya attain liberation, that is free from the cycle of birth and death. And from there is no question of fall down. So this understanding comes from, if you study very thoroughly the Acharya's commentaries, especially Srila Vishwanath Thakur's commentary, even Prabhupada's commentaries, if you study thoroughly, sometimes we study only one statement and try to, draw a general conclusion, but you'll have to study all the statements and bring about a Siddhanta. The Purva Paksha and the Uttar Paksha has to be brought out, and then the Siddhanta has to be brought out. So, in general, Jnanis by their Jnana Sadhana, if they attain liberation and they don't commit any offense to the Lord, they will attain Brahma Jyoti and they will attain Brahmananda. And from there is no question of fall down. The yogis, in fact, there is quite subtle differences between the Jnana Sadhana of the Jnanis and the yogis. Even in the Jnana Sadhana of the Jnanis, there is meditation on the Paramatma, for your kind information. And here there is more of an intellectual exercise in the Jnanis, and in the path of Ashtanga Yoga, there is a more of a physical exercise. There is a lot of physical exercises in the beginning stages. So both are deliberation, contemplation on the all-pervading Brahman or the Paramatma in the heart. There is that meditation is there in both the sadhanas, and the yogis also can attain liberation in the form of merging in the body of the Lord. So this we should be very, very clear about. Now, Prabhupada, in his purports, even derides these, because he doesn't want us to fix them as the goal. Because our highest goal is to attain Raja Krishna in Vrindavan. So, Prabhupada, knowing that highest purpose, he even condemns this. From the Varnashram perspective, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, attaining Moksha is the highest goal. But from the Bhakti perspective, even Moksha is what? It is condemned. So, from the Bhakti perspective, that's why Prabhupada even condemns that, so that we are fixed in that higher goal. I hope it is clear.
Yes, but I think I'll have to listen to it once again. So I have one more question, Prabhuji. So you mentioned about 3 types of Lakshmis, right? Divya Lakshmi, Mahalakshmi, and again the reflection.
No. Two Lakshmis, Mahalakshmi.
Mahalakshmi and Divya Lakshmi.
Consort. Not Divya Lakshmi. She's not Divya Lakshmi. I had saw Divya Saraswati. Divya Saraswati. And Saraswati, who is in the material world, who bestows material education. Divya Saraswati is who initiated even Brahma in transcendental knowledge, which is mentioned in the Brahma Samhita. So the transcendental knowledge which we get is not, part of the Vidya which we get in this world through Saraswati Devi, but she is Divya Saraswati. That was the point I mentioned.
Okay.
And even Lakshmi means the opulence the devotees might have, and they are not proud of it, like the opulence which Yudhishthira Maharaj had, was not bestowed by any material means, but it was directly the spiritual opulence of Lakshmi Devi in the spiritual world, Mahalakshmi. But in this world also, Lakshmi gives her grace. She is Chanchala. That's why money doesn't stay in one place, and that is material Saraswati. She is the counterpart of this, spiritual Saraswati, Mahalakshmi in the spiritual world. That was the point I made. I hope it's clear.
Yeah. It's clear. Okay, so all are different personalities, is it? Or...
Yeah, they are different. Like, there is, Radharani in the spiritual world, and her counterpart in the material world is Durga. She's ultimately, she's a material counterpart, expansion here. Or, the Lakshmis are also expansion of Radharani. The Maheshis are also expansion of Radharani. The Gopis are also ultimately the Kaya Vyuha, the expansions from her body there. So like that, the material counterparts are there and the spiritual counterparts are there.
Okay, yeah, understood. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, we are done with mantra 9. Tomorrow we'll take up mantra 10, and after that we have 8 more mantras to go. So we'll try to finish them. Okay, any other clarifications anyone has? Okay, so we'll continue tomorrow. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Shri Isopanisad ki Jai. Hare Krishna.